Hello and welcome back to the 13th episode of the Two Brits, One Yank podcast. My name is Conor Kelly and I'm joined by my two fellow Brits.
You want to go first?
So Wanjau-Smith.
Sambo.
And we have a very special guest here, someone very close to my heart, Caulfield, who is a certified sports yoga teacher. I probably should have asked you the name of the certification.
But rundown of all my credentials.
Yeah, exactly. A little resume on camera. But hey, if you've noticed some different surroundings, we are actually in the greatest country in the world.
We're not in Kenya.
Brother. We're not in Malaysia.
We are in the United States of America at Conor Kelly Studios 2.0. So have these boys here for 10 days. They got in last night and it's been so much fun already. And you've only been here, 24 hours now?
Hey, they say unlucky number 13, but this is not unlucky number 13. We are in, this place is unbelievable.
Trust me, I feel like a big kid. Like, I don't know, like just being here. What was it yesterday when we was driving back from the airport? I was getting so excited because I was seeing like these massive like pharmacy stores which are bigger than Tesco's back home.
McDonald's. 18 stone Sambone is now doing 20
Taco Bell
stone.
drive-through.
We had Statue of Liberty on the left and Boney was out the right window. That's Taco Bell.
No, literally, we're here for 10 days. We've got an America vlog coming up as well, so stay tuned for that. We're doing loads of like behind the scenes stuff, so that'll be a pretty cool watch. And yeah, man, just here for a good time. Looking forward to it. So
yeah. So now, without getting away from the start of the show, we have Ali. Yeah, could you tell us a bit about yourself? Or we usually say, "What was your first footballing memory?" But,
yeah, I know.
You know, since you're in yoga,
Actually, I probably do have a first footballing memory.
Okay, tell us about
it. From the time that I was 5 in Pee Wee leagues and recreation and all of that, and over time went into travel programs, not to the level that you did, Connor, and it wasn't even that much of a thing when I was growing up. But you know, I played to my high school team, some travel teams. Very immobile, very inflexible. Ended up getting injured before I went to college. I wasn't playing in college, so it wasn't a big deal. But my injury wasn't rehabbed properly. It wasn't diagnosed properly.
Hey, we know about that.
Yeah, so I just kind of went on and learned to live with it and work around it. But for sure, you know, my days of playing football were over. And, you know, tennis, anything that was kind of a lateral movement always gave me pause. I probably could have later had it surgically repaired, but life moves on and I just found ways to work around it. I still stayed fit and active, running, working out, realizing how important mobility is if you want to excel really in any kind of movement. So I probably started my own yoga practice 15 or 20 years ago, here and there, maybe a class at the gym. And then I found the Bikram practice, hot yoga, hot 26. You've done that before.
That class, I've actually done that class many a times. And I have to say, it is a perfect combination of Zen and torture. You are so hot, but you feel so good at the same time. And then when you leave and that like cold air hits you, I don't care if it's 30 Celsius, 90 degrees when you go outside, it cools you down.
What is it like in like a sauna or something? Like
close enough.
The room's heated typically to 108 to 110 with about
what's that in Celsius?
30 to 50
Maybe like
degree
37.
humidity.
Oh my gosh.
So sorry, how much was the humidity?
Like anywhere from 30 to 50 depending on the studio.
Wow.
That is sticky.
That sounds extremely tough.
Well, first off, I don't know if you guys picked it up. Did you hear us say football?
Yeah, I did hear that.
I know the company I'm keeping.
That is some good knowledge.
Keep it real.
Since we've actually been back in Connor's home, so to speak, I've heard him use a few weird terms. He said, I need to go get my bathing suit.
Oh, no, God.
When I heard that,
call it? Like
I went,
trunks
or swim shorts or something. And then he also called it soccer for the first time in a long time.
But I was talking to my cousin, it's different, you know? He doesn't play football, you know? So he doesn't know.
We'll let you off.
Let me just say, sorry, I'm going to shout out the vlog as well.
Oh my God.
You want to see these dodgy shoes that you turned up in yesterday?
We'll probably put them on here, to be honest.
In fact, we'll put them on.
Rainbow flip-flops.
No, not them, brother.
Not them.
It's the same. They're the same.
No,
Not
we're
them.
talking the loafers.
We're talking about the dodgy loafers that
There's
you
been
turned up
two pairs. That's how bad his gear is.
Literally.
Sanooks or something. Like.
They were coming at me for wearing rainbow flip-flops, and then I wear loafers to church, and they're like, What are you doing?
The loafers actually had a cross on them as well. Like they were proper Christian, bless you.
I love this one.
He was
It's
going
just
for
company,
it. He was
bro.
going for it.
Ali, come here. So, what made you get into yoga? Like, what was it?
So have you ever heard of Groupon? This is
Yeah, I have.
So there was a
Little
Groupon for the studio, and I was like, oh, hot yoga, that sounds interesting.
Right.
Let me go check that out. And I bought, 20 classes for $30 or something crazy. And with that class in particular, the poses are the same every time. So it was very easy to measure progress. So I kept going back, kept doing the same poses, same conditions, same order. And over time, again, because you're doing the same thing, I was like, wow, I could never backbend in my spine like this before. I could never, forward fold with this much ease. And just over time, I build with anything that you all know. Consistency is what matters when you're trying to improve upon anything. So, I got hooked and I realized how much better I felt doing everything else. So I think it's awesome to make yoga your thing. For me, I wanted yoga to be a support to whatever else I wanted to do, whether it was hiking or swimming or, whatever. So, and that's kind of where I found the correlation to be so strong for athletes that want to compete at the highest level. Is this is such an easy way to learn about your body, and if you get injured, just more education about yourself to rehab and overcome the things that come with all of that, even mentally. So not only did I see like all these physical changes in my body, but also just the mental focus, the concentration, the patience to allow, to recognize that we live in an instant gratification world, but not everything that's worth having is attained that way.
No, of course. And I think it's actually really interesting that you say that when you first started, it was kind of a bit of an addiction to progress and getting better and bettering yourself. Because I think that's the start, when you start with any new skill, that when you start to see things picking up, at first it can be really tough. But when you start something new and you're like, oh, I'm getting a little bit better at this. Oh, this stretches a little bit further. Oh, I feel a bit more comfortable. That is so addictive. And like you said as well with the mental toughness and strength, my mum's been trying to get me into meditation for ages. And I really struggle with concentrating and a little bit of like ADHD and stuff. So when I started actually doing yoga, it was kind of my time to relax. And I was also thinking, oh, this is going to help my football. I told my mum I was doing yoga and she was like, wow, that's your meditation. And I didn't really think of it in that way. Sure. And that's my time of just being present. And that's why I think it's just really important.
Why does it have such such positivity like on your mental aspects of things? What is it about yoga that's... I don't really know how to explain the question, but...
I mean, I think that's kind of nuanced because it can, be different things to different people. Like people say, well, why should I do yoga? And I always say I can give you a list as long as my arm of reasons why it can help you. Pick one and start there, and you'll probably find many others. So maybe it's physicality, maybe it's more flexibility, maybe it's more strength, more balance. For me, the biggest gift of all of it is just awareness and to be able to concentrate on your body. It's such an easy access point for your concentration because you're always with your body. Same thing with your breath. It's always with you. Like you can't forget it. Like your car keys on the counter, it's 20 to 24,000 breaths a day we take.
Really?
That's a lot of opportunities to just literally be like, I'm just going to drop right back into this moment with one breath. That's it.
It's funny you say that. She, Mrs. Caulfield, was actually so influential in me changing how I breathe. I remember when we first started doing yoga together, I was taking all the pens and I had missed 2 in a row. And I had like such bad anxiety going up to take pens. And she taught me about like box breathing and, doing maybe like 4-second breath inwards, 4 outwards to really like level yourself out. And I started doing it before every pen. And I had no problems after that. I was not nervous.
Amazing.
I would want the ball versus, sometimes when people expect you to take it and you almost don't want to, you're kind of shying away. It was stuff like that really just helped like center me on the field.
Are there any individuals, I bet you have countless amounts, that you could pinpoint that you've almost changed the way that they've seen their body and the effect that they've had on their physical performance? Are there any standout stars that you've trained with that have then gone on to big things?
Through my work with Rutgers, I have been with the baseball team for 3 years now, and several of those players have been drafted, and they're in the system for Major League. There's a couple of kids that I've worked with on the football team.
The soccer
Your
team?
football, soccer team.
Yeah.
Rutgers soccer.
Because I've worked with American football too. But so the soccer team that were drafted, I went to MD Myers. You know Matt Myers?
Yeah, I've played with him before.
Okay.
Yeah, he's really good.
Really good,
Yeah, scores a
very
bunch of goals.
focused, very, and again, like, I could tell almost immediately, like from first session, which kids were those kids that were looking to play to that higher level, because they treated the yoga practice the same way they're probably treating every other aspect of their training, which is kind of what I always encourage, is like, this might not be your favorite block of the week, but the more present you are here, the more translatable that will be in everything else that you do. And to your point, Saul, that you made earlier, was like, the yoga practice itself can be your meditation. You can go on a run, that can be your meditation. You can lift in the weight room, and if you are present and you are literally bringing every ounce of your mindfulness to every rep, that's your meditation. So it's anything, and that's where I think we get a little lost in the sauce of, it has to be sitting still and being quiet and having, this would be actually a really nice room for meditation. I'm looking around.
Hey, listen,
Windows,
after this, I'm
all
going to be
good.
stretching later, don't you worry.
Yeah. But really, it's just about, where am I right now? My brain and my body are in the same place, always, not just when you're laying on your yoga mat or when you're sitting on your meditation cushion. It's all the time. So, and it's not that the mind isn't going to wander away from whatever it is you're doing. It's how quickly can I recognize that it wandered away and just coax it back without getting mad about it, getting anxious about it, worrying about it, or feeling like, oh, I did that really well. Like, I got myself back really fast. It's all just neutral. Like, just, I'm here, I wandered away, I've come back, I'm back here.
How much yoga would you recommend to do within a week? Like, would you see the benefit maybe if you just did maybe one session a week, or is it something that you have to do maybe 2-3 times a week?
One is better than zero. I would say 2 to 3.
Okay.
Is there a way, could you overdo it? Could it negatively affect you? Say you're doing it every single day?
I would say you could overdo maybe passive stretching, especially if you're in an active part of your training cycle. So, we talked earlier about that. I can show you guys some stuff to do before a competition, and that's going to be more dynamic moving, versus passive stretching is kind of maybe, for a recovery day, like a full recovery day, where you're not going to be going out and needing, the elasticity of your muscles and all of that.
I think it's important to touch on this, because I think a lot of our viewers would be up-and-coming athletes, or they're current athletes, and the athletes that you've managed, when they come into you and they perhaps haven't done it before. Have they said to you, wow, this has really changed my game, like I've really had like positive results from it, stuff like that? Really?
Yes. And anything from managing how you breathe to improved recovery time, less soreness after competition or lifting or whatever, and more concentration.
I think that's the important thing, is, well, maybe just for me personally, with concentration, because being in a professional football environment, it is so hectic, and there is so much pressure, and every day you have to be at it 100%. And naturally, sometimes your concentration is gonna waver and is gonna vary, because it's hard for you to be 100% 24/7.
No one is. Yeah.
Well, exactly, it is impossible.
But it's
Trying to do things like yoga can, like you said, can just really bring you back, being present, have that time almost just to relax and to take a breath, literally. Have a bit of time off, and then you can now I'm ready to go attack it.
Because it is such high demand in sport, isn't it? And there's so much pressure, and we touched upon it when we done our previous podcast, but like, you see when you play for a team like Maidstone and you're expected to win, can you imagine at the high level, like City or Arsenal, for example, and how important it must be to just go, right, breather here, like all the pressure, outside pressures from the media and fans and stuff, like I can imagine it's so important to take that time to be with yourself. Does that make sense?
And I think what's also important is for young kids or aspiring footballers that are listening, or aspiring athletes, obviously you might think, oh, stretching or yoga, if I've got an hour to go out and train, it's more important than an hour to do yoga. But honestly, it's a different part of your body that still needs to be trained, and you still need to develop it. Because if you just go and concentrate on one thing, then this is going to be neglected. And I think it's really important, isn't it?
Definitely.
Well, I actually want to ask, what led you from regular traditional yoga, kind of, just overall loosening and meditation, into sport yoga and working with athletes and athletics in general?
So when I made the connection on, wow, if I was growing up as a young athlete and somebody taught me how to just do very simple stretching, who knows, you kind of can't get lost in the what ifs. But I found a woman who had trained the New York Giants, and I found her on Instagram, and she happened to this was 2015. She was offering a training that was specifically for athletes and with yoga, and she broke down different sports, and you were able to kind of identify the most common movements, areas that are most impacted, what needs to be loose, what needs to be strong. So I did her training and worked with her for a while, and then I started working with Connor and other just smaller groups locally. Like a mom knew me from my studio classes and knew that I was kind of segueing into a different kind of specialization, and just started working with young teams. And then before COVID, got brought into Rutgers and started working with a few of their teams, and then that kind of halted like everything else did. But then once I went back to that, it's been awesome because I'm just exposed to a lot of different sports, and I know from what I played, soccer and field hockey, and I know how that's a different level of, like, your attention needs to be focused in a different way than, say, football, where it's like really a lot of stop and start, or American football, or golf or tennis, like things that are more just individual. So it's been really fun for me to just observe how the minds, like I can see how different athletes of different sports, like of course their bodies are different and where they're tight and all of that, like that to me is kind of rudimentary, but the mental thing has been really cool because I can, like, the lacrosse guys are like a little more excitable and like the baseball guys are a little more chill. Yeah. So soccer's kind of a rowdy bunch too. Like they're, fun and energetic.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't know. I mean, I also, I did 2 different trainings with people who were working with athletes. Gwen worked with New York Giants, and then I worked with another woman named Lizzie who has trained the Miami Dolphins and almost all the teams at UMiami for the last many years. She was very good too. And then I also got my strength coach certification in 2019, which was probably my biggest achievement because it was really, really hard. Mm-hmm. And even to sit for it now, you have to have an exercise science degree. Like I wouldn't even be able to take it. So yeah, it was a big deal. And my reason for doing that was because I wanted to better serve the athletes that I was working with, yoga and mobility and all that. Like I wanted to know what are the demands of your bodies in the weight room because you're spending a lot of time there. Like that was not a thing when I was growing up. But now, like, there's 6th graders that are doing strength programs. So I'm like, they have to, that it all works together to be a holistic person and a holistic athlete and as healthy as you can be and perform at your best. It's the stretching, it's the strengthening, it's the sleep, the hydration, the nutrition, it's all the things. So that's just helped me to kind of make myself as well-rounded as possible so that I can offer, just like speak a common language with them. If I'm like, forward folds, and like, how about a deadlift? Would you ever bend down to do a deadlift with a rounded spine? Probably not, so don't do it when you're just bending down to touch your toes.
I was going to say, I think it's so important that you have your yoga certifications, but also now the strength, because, for instance, when I was at Duke, we didn't lift in season. So I found that quite weird. You have to have basically a combination of both stretching and strength. It can't be too focused on one, too focused on the other. And I feel like sometimes if you just have maybe like one individual leading your strength and conditioning kind of stuff, you can get over-focused and overgeneralized in a certain area and disregard other things that are so important. You could have someone who's obsessed with strength and they do no mobility or maybe just basic stretching versus someone who just does straight up yoga all the time and the boys aren't, helping prevent knee injuries and ankle injuries from lifting and stuff.
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
You need all of it.
Yeah, it's I mean, the body's so complex, isn't it? And it's just so everything's intertwined.
Well, our bodies want to be balanced.
Yeah,
They want to be in a state
exactly.
of homeostasis. And so, you know, you don't want to be, you know, I mean, for you guys, it's like the overdevelopment of the quads that lead to the knee. The hips are tight, the knees are tight because like you get so built up here. If you're not stretching enough here,
It's all linked
strengthening
in,
enough
isn't
in
it?
the back, then, you know, it's the how the
push and
muscles in
pull
the
of
front
everything,
work
isn't it?
together with the muscles in the back.
It's funny you say that because I've had back injuries, hamstring injuries throughout my career. Well, I don't really want to put that on camera, but throughout my career, especially like within the last like 2, maybe 3 years, and it's actually stemmed from my back.
Okay.
So it's interesting that you say that, and then I've obviously done back manipulations, and then, you know, within a week or so, it's actually eased off.
How about Pilates?
Well, there's a
I've
Pilates
heard-
here.
Certified in Pilates
heard-
as well.
I've heard
so I
about
like
Pilates.
really look at everything from a variety of lenses and vantage points.
I wanted to ask you, is there, and I think I know the answer already, but is there ever a day where you wake up and you say, oh, I've got to do another yoga class today, for example? Because for me, go back 2 months, the boys will tell you I was loving my yoga. I was doing it every day, wasn't I? 20 minutes here and there. But I found it hard to find that consistency with it. So, for example, now I haven't done it in maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Is it like, do you ever wake up and get that? Like, oh, I've got to do another session today? Or is it really? But you just have to do it.
Yeah,
I'm surprised by that.
Well,
surprised by that.
I mean, and this is back to where I say, like, maybe for me now, yoga is one of my main forms of fitness. And one of the things, you know, it is maybe my favorite thing. But for you, it might be going on a run, or it might be, you know, skills work or lifting or something else. To me, it's, you know, what is that one thing that you do get most excited about? Everything else, you know, we're not all going to have the same level of enthusiasm for everything. And that's okay. I mean, as a management of just health of your body perspective, yes, try to do some stretches 2 to 3 times a week. But, you know, on those days where I wake up and I have 40% to give and I give that 40%, I gave 100%.
Yeah,
So,
of course. 100%.
you know, I try to kind of teach people that, and I try to live that way. And, you know, come on, it's like crazy to think we're going to wake up every day and feet hit the floor and you're like,
Yeah.
let's go. It's
Literally. What days would you recommend, like, to do a good yoga session? Like, for example, would it be more beneficial to do it as part of your recovery? Say, for example, a day after a game, maybe do a yoga
Definitely.
session? Or
Yeah,
is
it's
it
great.
more
Day after a
beneficial to do it maybe a day before a game so then your muscles are looser?
I think that the types of practices might differ
Right.
between, you know, preparatory and post. Although, you know, if it's day before, then you can do more of the passive stretching. That's okay.
Okay.
Day of, you want to do more dynamic stretching.
Cool.
And then post, certainly you can go back to more passive.
Awesome. Well, I'll bear that in mind.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
I'm learning so much here, by the way.
If you had to choose like 5 yoga stretches or
Sure.
yoga poses that all athletes should
Brother just stole my question, man.
Did he?
He just stole my
Damn.
question.
I
from
could
me.
like guide you guys. I don't know
Damn.
how much
That's why you
room
don't
we
say
have
it before
here.
we
I know.
record the
Hey, I
pod.
said I've got a good
I've
question.
learned that. You don't tell the boys what you want to say.
He just stole my question.
When listen to your question.
No, he did.
Oh, yeah, well-
he just stole my question.
Well, I was
What
gonna
question
tie
do I
into 2
steal?
things. I'm gonna tie into 2 things.
Okay, let's hear
So I was
it.
gonna say there'll be some footballers that are, or some young people that are listening to this. They're probably saying, "Oh, yoga sounds good, but how do I even get into yoga? How do I even start?" So I was thinking about if you could answer that one. But as well as that, are there specifically for footballers? Are there 3 or 5 stretches or flows that you think that are paramount and are so important to footballers? And what would they be?
So I think for footballers, opening up all sides of the hips are really important. I think stretching quads are really important. I think balance work is important for just ankle stability and ankle strength. We can, you know, I can show you guys a few things. I can
For sure.
guide you through
Yeah.
a couple things if somebody wants to demo.
Interactive pod.
Yeah,
That
I'll
would
tell you
be-
what, we might have to delay it and go to the class on Tuesday.
That would be too cool. We make a video at the
Oh,
class.
that would be amazing.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I don't know about that one though. It'll be, everyone else will be in
sweating
there.
out.
Why are these 3? Well, I
They do
guess we'll have
plenty of
top stuff.
recording in those classes. It's no big deal.
Do people actually record?
Well, sometimes, yeah, just for like promotional.
So with Instagram now and everyone kind of being like a fitness influencer, have you found that weird? Because I remember when I used to, before college, when I was going to classes all the time, there weren't as many phones in there. Have you had to like adjust to like being on camera when you're teaching? Is that weird now?
Not as much. And I will say that, you know, as much as the social media is great and I learn a lot from people there and I, you know, can promote my work to some degree, most of my success and my clients have come just from relationships. And I think that's true just in all areas of life. I think we can get a little bit like, I don't know, deluded in thinking that more presence on social media is what we need, more, and like living in there versus like stepping away and making real relationships with people out here.
Does your teaching depend on, like, say for example, would you do a different session to, like, if you're doing a yoga session with some footballers, would it be different to the yoga session you're doing with some, I don't know, baseball players, for example?
Definitely. Yes.
Shoulder
Yeah.
work and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yes.
That's
I mean, I
what I
try
was
to
gonna
make
say.
most of my practices full body practices because,
Yeah.
again, I think our bodies want to feel balanced and even. But for sure, the demands on your bodies are different than a rotational athlete or, or a martial arts athlete or so, you know what I mean? So, yeah, definitely. I make a point to learn if I don't already know what are the most common movement patterns and again, like what are they working on in the gym? Like what muscles are they trying to strengthen? Like are they working more upper body or are you guys working more squats and deadlifts and things like that? Because that to me has been more informative than even just looking at the habits of the sport itself is really like the movement patterns in the weight room.
Has there been like a big difference since you've done your yoga with athletes, like in terms of their injury history? Like have there been less injuries now
Yes.
because of the really?
I mean, I can speak mostly for Rutgers baseball, but I know that their coach
Awesome.
has said that they have far fewer soft tissue injuries since they started.
Proof's
doing
in the
it.
pudding,
When
I guess.
when they're not in season, I work with them twice a week, which
When they're
is
not in
like
season?
unheard of for a coach to
Really?
Yeah.
When
be
they're
out
not
on
in
court with
season,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. So in their off season, we do like an active mobility day and a
Yeah.
passive mobility day.
So, but in the U.S., an off season is they're still training and stuff. It's just
Oh,
less.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So that'll be in like the fall. So that's
Right.
more August to December. You're still there. It's kind of how like uni football. I played 17 main games in the fall. We still train in the spring, do some friendlies, but
Okay.
it's not
So it's not-
considered in
So
season.
it's not like our off season right now where
We
we
have
don't
nothing.
get seen for 6
Right.
weeks.
No, it's not
Okay,
like that.
okay.
But it's still.
I'm not with them during that period.
Okay.
They'll have
Right,
a period
okay.
like that too.
But that is still absurd to be
Yeah,
in twice a week.
pretty
That's
crazy.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It must be really nice to work with a coach as well who has such an understanding. Did I get your
Yeah,
dad?
you got the same thing.
Yeah. Because sometimes, you have coaches that they don't listen to physios, they don't listen to strength coaches.
course.
It's all football, or whatever the sport is. And it's really nice to have someone that will incorporate everything, isn't it?
It's great. I mean, obviously, it gives me a job. I mean, but, because I'm an athlete, at heart. And even when I first started doing my own yoga practice, I was like, I can't sit there and do the chanting and the om and the all right, I've come around to a lot of that. But I would not dare step in front of a group of athletes or a team and be like, all right, everyone, find your hand mudra and, speak that kind of language because I'm going to lose half of them and I'm certainly not going to get a coach on board speaking that way. So, it helps me, but getting the coach's buy-in is everything.
I want to strip it back, and this is going away from what we've just spoken about. But you see, when you first started doing your classes, like, was it nerve-wracking? Was it daunting? Like, if the energy's on you, everyone's listening to you. Like, was it nerve-wracking, like doing your
Bit like
first
doing
few
this podcast.
classes?
I was just going to
First time.
say, just like how I sat down here,
Yeah.
feeling very nervous. Yes, of course. And it is a big energy giver to stand up in front of the room and teach yoga. It definitely is. I receive, I give. And, I definitely walk out of the room sometimes and think, well, that was terrible. But everyone else is like, well, they didn't remember that I forgot to do the Warrior One on side 2. And, so that's when I almost have to go back to, okay, well, what's the whole point of this is to recognize, okay, I'm trying to do my best. That moment passed anyway. So what is it even serving me right now to worry about what everybody else thought about the class? And, just be in this moment and move on. And, it teaches you to just kind of roll with whatever.
Awesome.
Know that every day isn't going to be your best day.
If you had any advice for people that were trying to make that jump and really take the plunge into becoming a yoga instructor, what advice would you give them about how to handle a class and what steps to take?
I guess just start. Just do it.
Sorry, you've got to start it to understand it. And that's what I was actually saying a couple of months back when I had that rhythm and I was loving it. I used to always not look down on yoga, but I was just like, I can't be bothered to sit there and stretch for 20 minutes. I'd rather just go on my phone or something. But you have to do it to understand the benefits.
Yes.
And I was speaking so highly of it. And that's why I was so excited to have you on, to listen to what you had to say. But now I've just dropped off it a little bit. But I think after this conversation,
this is your motivation. You need
yeah,
to get back
literally.
into
I think this has made me wake up a little bit and realise that I need to go back to it 100%.
Yeah.
But I'm saying more for like an instructor, so
Right.
to become a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Just start. Like the same way if you wanted to do anything else in your life. I mean, playing football or, even like specifying a skill, a corner kick or a penalty kick or whatever. Like I'm going to just focus on this and I'm going to do it, and getting out there and knowing that you're going to mess it up sometimes, but that's how we all learn.
I guess it's like
Kobe
with the
Bryant,
podcast,
you
isn't
got to
it?
stare your failures in the face, I think he said.
Yeah. I mean, you were someone that put me on to Kobe Bryant 100%.
Yeah.
She actually got me a Kobe Bryant book when I went off to college.
No way.
She sent it to me, and it was actually right before he passed away, and I was reading it
That's crazy.
kind of around the same time, and yeah, it changed my mentality so much. The book's called The Mamba Mentality, and it's like a montage of pictures and him talking through it and all the things that he did to help him be successful. And one of them was yoga. And it really actually changed the way that I treat my body as well, kind of reading it through someone who's been so successful. So again, thank you so much for sending that to me, because that meant the world to me.
Ali, do you have any stories of perhaps people that have come to you in a negative mindset and maybe, I don't know, a month, 2 months later, you've really seen a change in their mentality towards things? Does that make sense? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot there with
that's okay.
stories, but
I feel going back to the pressures of social media and just how global we feel like we have to be, and global eyes are on us, and we have to be part of a global everything. It's a lot. I also think that NIL and the transfer portal have, while been really great tools for students and athletes, it's been hard to manage anxieties surrounding that. It's hard to build cultures and programs now because of that. It's hard to manage criticism. So I definitely see a lot of kids that are anxious when they travel, but I think it's more just a systemic, chronic level of anxiety because of all these other things. So one of my favorite ways to end my practices with athletes is with a body scan meditation. Have you guys ever done that? Have you guys
No.
ever done that?
No.
Actually, I probably have, but I don't know the name of it.
So you just kind of lay there, and the instructor will kind of identify parts of the body, and you just like think about those parts. You don't move them. Nothing. So my absolute favorite thing, that maybe takes anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes, depending on how detailed I am in the script. And when I can see that, especially my kids that like have a lot of anxiety are like literally passed out snoring by the end.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I know the point really isn't to fall asleep, but it makes me so happy because
That's awesome.
I can see like they just let everything go, even if
It's
it's just
work
for a
for
few
them.
minutes.
Yeah.
I think it's very important, Ray. We've touched on obviously athletes, but general like people that there might be viewers that are watching this that don't play sport, they just enjoy watching football. And I think
our parents watch it, don't they?
yeah, but also I think life at times can be very stressful in terms of feeding your family and stuff like that. Would you have a big emphasis? Like, would you say to someone, Ray, I encourage you to do yoga and see the positive aspect, the benefits that you'll get out of it? Does that?
Yes, and one of my main messages is to focus on process over outcome. I'm sure you've all heard that before, and try to practice it best you can.
I'm
the
living it right
outcomes
now.
are great.
Yeah.
But that, is especially helpful if you're injured or if there's a coaching change and that affects your place on the team or managing difficult relationships with coaches. I know, I'm sure you've all been down that road.
Well, we've all just been released, so
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say, whether you're trying to get back on another team or just move about the world in whatever you do, that if you know that I'm doing the best that I can with the things that I can control at any given moment, then you have to just trust in that preparation, and you have to know that the outcomes will come if you're focused on your process. So I forget the question.
No.
that's perfect. That's
No,
That was a perfect
I
answer.
do yoga.
Yeah, I
I
was
mean,
just
I don't know.
basically.
Yoga helped me just slow things down to a point where I could really think in those terms.
Yeah, 'cause
instead of like, well, what's next, and the scrolling and the like literal 4-second attention span when you're here versus I'm going to put you in pigeon pose and you're going to hold it for 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
where's your mind going to go, and how are you going to bring it back? And
Exactly, because the reason I asked that is because I've had like moments in my life where it's been tough. Like I went through a breakup and I found it tough, and I went to see a psychiatrist, and it helped, but it didn't. I don't know. I thought I was going to get better benefits, and the one thing I didn't try was actually doing yoga, and perhaps I should have, because I would have loved to have seen where my mindset would have gone there, because it was a tough time for me. And that's the reason I wanted to ask you that, because there could be people that are watching this that might be going through a tough time and they haven't maybe looked at doing yoga, and it was important for me to hear that, definitely.
it's a good example and representation of it's just you. Like it's just you with your thoughts, with your body, with your breath, and not, a mental health expert guiding you, or a coach, or your dietitian. I mean, I tell my athletes all the time, like, it's so easy to just go on autopilot in your lives as a student athlete, especially because you're young and you don't have as much sense of self, and everyone's like ushering you. Now you're due here, and now you go there, and now you go to your tutor, but let that time with me be maybe the only time in your whole day that you're with your own thoughts, that you're managing your own experience. I tell them your body's a vehicle. Like, you can make a lot of money and have as many cars in your driveway as you want, but like, this is the only vehicle you get. So when I'm guiding, I think of it as like, I'm trying to teach you how to use your vehicle. Like, this is your user guide, so that when I go onto the pitch and something doesn't feel quite right, like maybe, you have a little more information and feedback from your body because you're paying attention.
Yeah, I have to say, like, yoga and meditation has helped me a ton through my career. So I think I've given you guys a background, but for the viewers, I started working with Ali when I was about 16, and I was so tight. I remember there was like a few times where I would go into training on a Monday and I wouldn't be able to train until Wednesday just because I had growing pains. I had more pains than I actually had growth, unfortunately. But so I was really struggling with that, and I saw like a marked change right away. I felt so much looser. I was training every training. I got injured. She helped me through my rehab with my knee injury, and I've actually never had a muscle injury until, well, it's not a muscle, but until the ankle.
Let's touch some wood.
Yeah, please.
Touch some wood somewhere.
No more injuries. But I have to say, I feel like yoga helped me so much in my availability. And I can't thank you enough, because I really don't know where my career would have gone if I didn't start doing yoga.
And he does speak very highly of you as well.
Thank you.
That's why we were so keen to get you on.
100%.
I
The first
appreciate
guest.
it.
The first guest.
The guests know.
American,
The viewers will know how excited I would have been for this as well.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I was mad into my yoga there. So I think that is
Yeah,
there
We're
any?
going to bring it back.
Yeah, even beyond the physical though, like when I went through times at Duke, and obviously you know this from working with student athletes, like it's not the easiest time with coaches, and for instance my senior year I wasn't playing that much. We were doing well, and I was leaving, and I had to figure out transferring while playing in season. It was a lot of stress, and I felt sometimes I would seize up on the pitch, like get in front of goal, and you almost get nervous on what if I miss, not what if I score. And I feel like yoga definitely would help center me and just be like, whatever happens is gonna happen.
Exactly.
Focus on the process. Focus on what you can control, and yeah. So it's amazing the mental health that can come with doing something that seems purely physical.
Right.
100%.
And that's it. It's like, it's almost sneaky. So you kind of have to just do it and then see for yourself, like, okay, wow, I do feel calmer. I do feel more resilient or better able to handle. Like, life is going to be stressful. So you focus on your process. All of the habits that you guys all have that have made you elite athletes are the same habits that enabled you to create this podcast. It's discipline, it's hard work, it's motivation, it's enthusiasm for what you're doing, it's passion. That, one thing that I also, it can help athletes with that identity foreclosure when your career does eventually change into maybe not being professional and you're going to go out and do something else. Even if you stay in the sport, like, the demands are going to be different, and it's just all still the same habits, the same process, the same kind of standards that you set for yourself, that you wake up every day and want to meet, and just keep with that. And whatever you go out and do, you'll at least know that I'm doing my best and I can control what I can control.
And I think that identity thing is really important, because obviously we've all been released, and we've all been in full-time football, and then now we're kind of waiting for some full-time opportunities. And it is likely that not all of us will be playing full-time football next year. We might have to go to part-time. And I think it is that little bit of, well, I've been a full-time footballer. Everyone knows me as a full-time footballer. Now, people can say, what, you're training evenings now, not during the day. And it's that kind of shift. But that's why things like yoga are so important for the mentality and the resilience and everything that comes with it. That, I know we all can't speak highly enough of it. So,
well, there we go. But I also think that's we might be going away from the yoga stuff, but I think that's a mindset where you have to get into, and you don't. Who cares what people think? Does that make sense?
That's why we've set up things like the podcast.
Yeah,
you see that?
Literally, and that's actually the big thing that was stopping you from doing your TikToks.
Yeah.
Stopping me from perhaps being on camera was that I used to think, what are people going to say? Like, if I go into the change room, are people going to be talking about it, laughing about it? Who cares?
Well, life is so short.
Who cares?
You just have to do what's best for you.
Do you, and then do what you enjoy, because it can hold you back. And now we've set up this podcast, and it's one of the best things. How buzzing I am when I do the podcast.
Yeah, and even like we've just bought mics for the
like,
vlog.
I
and
absolutely love it.
These are the best things I've ever bought.
I spoke to him when I went to the Brovnik last week, and I said to you, didn't I, how I've come back with this mindset where I just love this podcast, and I want to take this podcast to big places, So
here we are.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
Hey, we have
We're
our
in New
set.
Jersey.
And it stems
Big
from a little
places.
idea, and you're consistent with what you do with it. You start seeing results.
We
You've
have
got to take that
studios.
first step.
By episode 13, we have studios in 2 countries. I mean, that's pretty good.
I mean, that's what we put on our goals, no?
Yeah.
Our yearly goal.
True.
To take the podcast to a different country.
That is true,
Now,
actually.
it obviously helps that you are from the States, but
Kenya's next.
I was going to say, I think
it's ticked off. Goal
we've
done.
cheated a bit. But
Yeah, literally. But no, I think that wraps it
perfect
up
place to
nicely.
Yeah.
The proof's in the pudding, guys. I mean, we obviously, us four, can't speak highly enough of yoga. You have to do it to try. You've just heard what Ali said. Awesome thing. So thank you so much. Thank
You're
you so much for
welcome.
coming on. I've
Thank you
genuinely
for having me, and congratulations. on
really,
this
really,
fun
really enjoyed
venture.
it. It's been
Good.
awesome. So thank you so much.
And I'm going to go off and stretch in a second. So.
Facts.
Perfect.
We're going to do a session actually. So
Happy to show you guys some stuff.
I was going to say, we were going to go to the gym, but I think now we might have to do some yoga
Oh, that is
instead.
Both of
yoga
you
time.
both.
Yeah.
It's yoga time. There
Would
we go.
Do you want to show us any, like, the 5 essential poses that...
I can show you a couple things quickly. Yeah, if you want to.
Okay, cool, so-
Does somebody want to be the student, and I can.
We'll
Teach?
finish this, and then we'll kind of clear things out. And
Okay.
we'll show it. We'll do it after.
It's
and
like
then
a
we'll,
second.
Yeah, we'll
Got
show it now.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
even realize you were going to. That's awesome.
Sweet.
100%.
All right.
Perfect. Well, Ali, it's so weird calling you Ali because I called her actually Natalie, which is her daughter's name, because I'm so used to saying Mrs. Caulfield. So after this episode, you're
We're
going
on
to
the
go
adult
straight.
level now.
No, you're going straight back to Mrs. Caulfield. I respect it. I can't thank you enough for being on, and
Thank you for
I've
having
really
me.
enjoyed it.
First
yeah.
podcast.
Yeah,
There we go.
first
Done excellently as well.
First,
that I ever taught yoga.
guest in the States as well.
Yes.
Did
lots
you
of
boys hear that? First athlete, she taught yoga.
fun. Yeah.
That is
Damn.
cold.
City downhill.
That might
from
be the
there.
best moment of my career.
That is cold.
She's gone
man.
on to big things.
There we go.
Yeah.
But guys, also like, subscribe, and share it. I've done it first
There you
time.
go,
now.
first time.
Like,
Wow.
subscribe, and share it to your friends, family, everything, whatever.
This could help someone, so.
There
please.
we go. Exactly.
This
there we
boy
go.
comes to America and he smartens up. I like it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Thanks. Right.
Right.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.